did a regular Tuesday feel like in the first, couple weeks of us working together or right before?
Lots of mayhem, unpredictability, not just of what would come your way, but also how you were going to take care of what came your way. Me needing to replicate myself in five different places, which is not to say I knew the best way to deliver something. So I was dealing with uncertainty in every area on any given Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm sure this is so relatable and familiar to anyone that's listening, even just here in the first couple minutes. And I think a lot of leaders start listening to this and are like, okay, but my problems are different. So, can you share with us a little bit of what were the problems or the breakdowns that kept showing up over and over again, even after you were like, okay, I'm going to build a process for this, I'm going to build an SOP, I'm going to build a system, but things kept breaking, same problems kept coming back. What were some of those breakdowns?
So, one I would say was as an independent freestanding school that's not part of a franchise or a corporate chain with a how to manual, we were kind of building the plane as we were flying it. So, there wasn't consistency in how we were executing. And even the time to train people, there just wasn't, like we were doing as we went along. And then we started to have a lot of staff turnover, particularly after COVID. Like we had a great honeymoon period when we first opened, where families really needed us in the neighborhood. Teachers were hungry for, or a certain profile of teacher was hungry for a school like ours to really protect childhood. They came our way. And then as we grew, we realized that what we could do as a small group, because it was people dependent, individual dependent, we couldn't do as we kept growing. So then the turnover happened. And some of the turnover, you could say, is a nature of the industry, but a lot of it was there just weren't consistent processes. So to some extent, I didn't know whether people really felt successful, because every day it was a different way, and they were like, how am I ever going to succeed? And then maybe we were letting in the person through the door that we shouldn't be letting it. It was an era where you have a pulse, you can fog a mirror, you're in. So we had to really go back and look at how we were doing things to try to go back to stability.
As you're speaking, I'm thinking through chapter one of This Can't Be Normal, right? The invisible weight, the anticipating, the thinking, the constant decision making of, is this the right person? Is this the right thing? Is this the right policy, right? The classic building your plane while you fly it. Um, what what were you really exhausted from carrying? Like when you think of the cost, right? Because the thing that's so important to understand is that when you're in that season, right, that you were in, we normalize it, right? We're like, this is just what we have to do. Like we're in hustle mode, we're in growth mode, we're in survival. Like this is what we have to do. But then every owner and every leader reaches a point where they're like, no, 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 like this can't be normal. Like I can't keep operating like this. Can you invite us into that moment? And I'm sure there were multiple moments, but what moment stands out to you?
Yeah, so like shortly after COVID, I started the school with a business partner, who's a wonderful person, but we decided to part ways. And during that time, I actually asked myself whether I even want to do this. What started off as the only reason I was doing it was a desire to make impact. I had a very successful corporate career, and they give you all these golden handcuffs that you don't want to leave, but all I wanted was to create impact, and that was beaten out of me, that joy, that desire to create impact. And I had myself asking, is this what I want to continue in, with or without the partnership? And it was a real a moment of reckoning. And what got me there was definitely the invisible weight. I felt like I was the only person in the world who could see the things, to care about the things, to do something about the things. I felt like everybody else got to go home and disconnect, and I didn't. And um, I actually had my daughter the after I kind of did the signing of the lease. So that year it was like raising two babies. And I say that to kind of give you context to, I had very young children and they needed me. And um, it was, carrying this weight, was it worth it? Was this big question that I asked. And then, as you were just saying, honey, I felt like, hey, what did I expect? I've taken on this big undertaking. I'm switching into a new industry. We're starting to be financially successful. Surely this is the price I have to pay. So I almost like normalized it for myself, like no one was normalizing it for me, but like I was normalizing it for myself as this is what it takes. And if you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to just, put your big girl pants on and deal with all this misery, is what I was telling myself.